Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you new here, my name is Donna, and for those of you not new, thank you so much for continuing to come back and support my channel. I appreciate all of you so much. Today we're doing episode 110 of my palette roulette series, in which I let an app choose a palette for me. I utilize it throughout the week. I take pictures of the looks that I come up with, and then I come back to you. I talk to you about my experiences with the palette. I show you the looks I created, show you some swatches typically, and then we pull a new palette. Today's palette that we're going over is the Tarte Tarteist Pro Remix palette. And there was a lot of controversy, if I remember correctly, when this palette came out because this packaging is what it is. It is one of those packagings that shows you like more or less dependent on where you have it at. But in addition to that, the inside is also very similar to the outside. Even when you're not looking at the shades, it's very similar to the outside of the package. And I know that the thought process was really centered around how Tarte was trying to pull you away from the continued nature of their palettes, the continued mundaneness of their palettes, and prove that they could do color as well. And then they were only doing color on the exterior of the packaging. We'll talk about that in a second. So this is what the palette looks like. It is one of those palettes that makes noise when you touch it. I have a hard time with those palettes, if I'm honest, but it also changes dependent on how you are looking at it. I really think that this palette speaks to my 13-year-old self. My whole bedroom when I was a teenager was done in black and white and red, because those were the shit when I was that age. But all over the walls were these splatters. The walls were white with black and red splatters. And then all of my furniture in my room was a different shade of black or white or red with the different colors of splatters all over it. Like, my bedroom was the most amazing bedroom of my friends. If you are one of my friends and you've seen my bedroom when I was 13 years old, comment down below, because you know it was the shit. It was the shit. This palette speaks to me, my 13-year-old self, because of the splatters and the whatnots. So this was really inspired by all forms of art and self-expression. That is what is on the Tarte website, and I really feel like it really leans to that like spin art nature, or, you know, what was popular back in the day at one point in time. The back of the palette just is gold with the little Tarte sticker here that just tells you a little bit about Tarte, has the shelf life on here, and it doesn't really say much in that sticker. And then inside you do have a really generous sized mirror, and this is what the shadows in this palette look like. So with that being said, as I said when we pulled this last week, if you cover up sections of the palette, so say cover up these four here, maybe this red, and then these two shades here, you really have what is categorically a pretty true to Tarte palette, right? So there's not a whole lot of extra color in here. But what I will say is the colors that are in this palette are beautiful. They are beautiful. So this Tarte Tarteist Pro Remix palette comes in at $49. I'm pretty certain I paid $53 for it. I'm not sure where I'm getting that number, but I'm pretty certain I paid $53 for it. It is a $49 palette. It has 0.70 ounces of product in it, or 0.035 ounces per pan. That's about the same size as like an ABH standard 14 pan eyeshadow palette. It is cruelty free. It does have a 4.4 star rating at Ulta Beauty with 120 reviews on it. It has a 4.2 star rating at Sephora with 1,324 reviews on it. And it has a 5-star rating at Tarte with 702 reviews on it. Y'all know how I feel about 5-star reviews on the brand's website. You know, I don't think that 5-star review could hold. I mean, really, I think that there's maybe some misgiving in that. 702 people said that it was a 5-star palette. It really shocks me. It It really does. Especially when not many more, so just about twice that, give it a 4.2 star, and 120 give it a 4.4 at different locations. So I don't read much into the star rating on the own brand's website. Y'all know how I feel about those. I would say this probably is roughly a 4.2, 4.4 star rating palette. I don't think it's a bad palette by any means, but I do think that it's not going to come in at 5 stars. Most people want more mattes than what's in this palette. This palette only has 3 mattes, and they are this one here, and then this black here. So you have a beige, a like neutral tone taupey brown, and then you have a black. That's not enough for a lot of people. You will see that I just put whatever I want to all over my eyes. So I did use all of the shimmer or satin or luster, as they call it, shades anywhere I wanted to on my eye. It is what it is. I did create a really nice, even New Year's Eve glam look with this palette. This is the palette that I used in that look, even though I never mention it in that video, but it is coming out on the 30th, so you guys will see that. This is the palette that I used to create that. I think it's got a good amount of versatility in it, even though 17 of the 20 shades are a different formula than matte. So this does have 20 shades. 3 of them are matte, like I said. The other 17 are a shimmer or a metallic or a luster, what they call a luster, or a floating glitter, which we'll get there in a second, or a duochrome. These are soft and silky to the touch. Like anytime you rub your finger into any one of them, they're super soft and silky to the touch. They're soft in the pan, and because they're soft in the pan, they're also subject to a little bit of fallout. I did get quite a bit of fallout with this palette, but they just kind of wipe right away. And that is another reason why I do my foundation after I do my eyes. I like my base to go on, and I don't like to have to fuss with it while I'm putting on an eye look. So I have never, well, I shouldn't say never. In the very beginning I did, but I always do my eyes before my base because of the fallout piece. Fallout isn't one of those make or break moments for me. If a product has fallout, it's not an end all speak all for me. I don't think that there's anything wrong with fallout unless it's fallout that also lacks pigmentation. Because there's fallout, you note that these shadows are a bit powdery. With that said, I would say that sometimes a powdery formula lacks consistency. Tarte is a very consistent formula. I would say from this palette to the smaller palettes that I have in my collection to even my Tarte Pro, my Tarte Tarteist Pro palette, the one that is mostly matte, the consistency is spot on. They're all high performing, high blendability. I think that they're all, Tarte is probably, if nothing else, the most consistent formula I have in my collection, or top 5 consistent formulas that I have. And their Amazonian clay formula, it's phenomenal, and is also supposed to have skin living properties to it. The wear time was about 8 hours if I wore a primer. I would say without a primer, it was almost pretty much the same. I don't think that there was a day that I really noticed it lasting any less than 8 hours, even on the days that I wasn't wearing a primer. Today, this eye look, I'm not wearing a primer. It's been on my eyes for at least 5 hours, and you can't even tell. It looks like I just put it on. I would say that this is mostly mid-range warm and cool tone colors. We do have some warm tones in here. We also have some cool tones. I think that speaks to its versatility for, any audience. I think that it needed a better color story for its mattes. I don't feel like the 3 mattes that they have in here really speak volumes to this color story. I think they could have done with like maybe even a coral or a nice pink or a purple, or maybe all 3 instead of the 3 that we have here. Almost any shade in here could be used as a matte, because their shimmers aren't necessarily in your face shimmers. So I think that this could have substituted in most cases for like a brow bone shade or an inner corner shade or like a blend out shade. It's a shimmer, but it doesn't really have like that shimmer. And I know a lot of people would disagree with me because you can't wear shimmers in the crease. I do. So I wear shimmers as if they're any other, like, as long as they're not glitter, like, I don't see a problem with it. But I think there's a lot of different mattes that they could have put into this palette if they were only going to include 3 that would help really with the color story of it and help really present them more as a brand that does do color, which is what I know that they were trying to go after with this palette. Since putting out this palette, they have put out, you know, some other color stories that are more colorful in nature. So, but this being their start, it was like,
that's not colorful, Tarte. It's really not.
These are super blendable. Even the shimmers are super blendable. This eye look that I have on today consists of all of A's shimmer formula, so to speak. But this does have really super blendable shadows, from mattes to duochromes to glitters even. Many of the shimmers perform more as a satin than they do as a shimmer. And I think that they call this formula a luster. So, and that makes sense. They are a little more lustrous than they are shimmery. This darker blue in my eye look is one of those that I would say is more of a luster or a satin than a shimmer. It contains 6 different finishes supposedly. So you have a matte, a luster, a metallic, a duochrome, a shimmer, and then a floating glitter. So floating glitter sounds super interesting. What it really is just a matte with glitter in it. We all know how I feel about those. I thought, ooh, that sounds interesting. It's not as interesting as it sounds. Although, I think I'm going to forevermore call mattes with glitters in them floating glitters. I think that that is amazing. I think it makes it sound amazing. So those are the 6 formulas that this palette has. There are 2 duochromes, and those are Art Deco and Create. So this one here and this one here. I do have both of these on my eye. So this one here is this upper brow bone area shade. It looks like a blue. It has like this blue gold gray shift to it. And then this one here is what is on my lid, and it has like a teal, pink, brown, blue shift to it. So this is a duochrome and this is a duochrome. So then we have the 2 floating glitters, which are Beat Drop and Graphic. So these 2 here are floating glitters. This is a black with a like silver gray glitter, and then this is a black with a purple glitter. I think that these floating glitters perform better than many other mattes with glitters in them that are in my collection. You can actually see the glitter in these floating glitters. I will say though that they're not unlike any other matte. If you want to see the glitter, you have to pat it on your eye instead of buff it in. You're not going to see the glitter if you don't pat it on. There are 3 lusters, and they are Artist, which is that blue. Like I said, it is the deep blue in between. So I have duochrome, luster, duochrome on my eye look today. Then you have Color Explosion, which is the green right next to it. That is also a luster. That is on my lower lash line today. And then you also have Mashup, which is this one here. And that is a really beautiful tone of purple with a little bit of a pinkiness to it. The rest of them in there are shimmers or metallics. Like I said, many of them function in a way that you can use them as mattes in an eye look. You can use any of those floating glitters, any of those lusters, obviously the duochromes, for anywhere in your eye look. It is a hugely versatile palette. I think that people look at it and go, this is all shimmer, there's only 3 mattes in here, this is full of color. That's not the palette for me. It really is a beautiful palette. This is actually the first time that I used this palette in my collection, and I couldn't be happier with it. I am super stoked about the looks I was able to create with this. And there are some colors in here that I don't think I got enough use out of. Honestly, I would really love to use this green more. I used it more so on my lower lash line than I did anything else. I would really love to use it just a smidge bit more. I also would really love to get into this yellow just a little bit. I think that that is a beautiful yellow. It could be a beautiful like inner corner highlight. Let's do that. Yes, I think it could be a beautiful inner corner highlight, especially if put on just a little more so it's a little more saturated. You can't hardly tell I have it on right now. Another one that I really truly love is this one here. It is this shade right here, which in the pan looks like it could be just like a mossy green, but it's actually like a really beautiful, like sagey green. It's a gray with kind of like a green shift to it. It's really, really pretty. And that is actually what is in my brow bone and what is in my inner corner today. God, it's just such a pretty shade. I really do feel like this palette, and I don't know how many times I'm going to say this to you, but I really do feel like this palette is a lot more versatile than people give it credit for. And even though it's not as colorful as you would think a colorful palette is, that actually is okay. I think that if Tarte had went balls to the wall, straight up, you know, Norvina palette, then people would side-eye it and not have purchased it anyways as well. Another thing that I would say that is amazing about this palette is the shimmers and the lusters and the whatever shades in this palette perform just as well dry as they do wet. Nothing on my eye look today went on wet. Everything went on dry. So if that's a step in your makeup application that you don't like having to do because you just feel like it's an added step and you don't have time for it, you're not here for it, that's okay, because this palette would give you everything you needed in an eye look, dry or wet. They all performed really well with brushes. I would say probably a more densely packed brush is better just because of the formulations of the shadows in here, except for with, of course, the mattes. The black is a really decent black. It is pretty stark, doesn't really turn gray. It's got a lot of pigmentation to it. I love these shadows. I think that they're also really kind to your eyes. So if you are a person that suffers from super sensitive eyes, this is a great formulation for you. Amazonian clay is really good. It's a good skin loving ingredient. And if you have oily eyelids, this also might be a good palette for you, because Amazonian clay is going to help absorb those oils. I don't have oily eyes, but I do have sensitive eyes, and sometimes when I put an inner corner highlight into my eye looks, that immediately gets my eyeballs moving in motion towards I'm gonna water all day long, and it doesn't do that with this palette, which I love. So a couple things. When I first pulled this palette, I was like, oh, this is all shimmer. I'm probably going to see usage of my single shadows this week as well. I didn't find myself needing to pull from my single shadows at all. You can see this eye look today. I have 2 Duochromes and 2 lusters on my eye look. It's really a formula that lends well to a lot of different functions for each one of the formulas, and you don't find yourself, I didn't find myself needing to pull in different palettes to make this work. Now granted, there is a look on here that you're going to see a lot of glitter on my eyelid. That's spoiler to the New Year's Eve look that I'm doing in a couple days. That does have a steely glitter on the lid, but that's because it's a steely glitter. I needed a glitter on my lid, not just a shimmer on my lid, so I did pull in a steely glitter. But for the most part, there were no other palettes or single shadows pulled in to make this palette work today. In addition to that, this palette, I forgot to mention, smells so good. I think it's vanilla. It smells so good. It smells like cookies. You open it up and it smells, and I have had this palette in my collection for probably about a year now, and I am sad that I waited this long to use it because I really did have a good time with it. With that being said, there are 20 shadows. You guys know how I feel about swatching a palette that's got, you know, more than, 15 shadows in it. I am going to swatch a few for you. I feel like this red is important for you guys to see because it's not as red on your eye as it appears in here. It does kind of make more of an orange. I think I already swatched that one, but I'm going to like finger swatch it. I already swatched this yellow and this green for you. This blue is on my eye. I am going to swatch the Duochromes for you. I'm also going to swatch that green. So this is the red in the palette. The name of this guy is Graffiti, and it is a decent red, but once you start buffing it out, it slips into a little bit of an orange realm. So you have to be careful with this guy. I do love it. It is in my New Year's Eve look, but you do have to be careful with this. If you want a red, you have to pack it in and not so much buff it out. Then we have this guy here, which is one of the lusters. It's called Mashup. It is a beautiful purple. I did wear it. Look at how sheeny this is. I mean, it looks like liquid on my hand right there. I think that that color is just beautiful. And then we have the two Duochromes. So those two on the end are the Duochromes. The first one is Art Deco and the second one is Create. You can see that Art Deco one does have a little bit of a tealy green gold shift to it, and then the Create one is kind of one of your standard green brown Duochromes that's I think this shade of Duochrome was also in the first Tarte Tarteist palette as well, so there's that. And then there's this green here, which is called Color Explosion. It is also a luster. I didn't swatch that very good. So again, it just looks like liquid on my hand. They're just so, so pretty. So let's swatch one of these or both of these floating glitters for you guys. So these are the floating glitters. You guys can see they already just on a finger look more saturated with glitter. The mini matte glitter formulas. So there's that. So we do have the first one, which is called Beat Drop, and it is that kind of like graphite. It reminds me of a pencil lead. And then we have this one, which is called Graphic, and it is the purple. And you can see that purple is really evident in this, but it's because I straight up pushed down and kind of bounced my finger across as I was swatching it. Now, if you buff it out, it definitely loses a lot of that purple. So that right there is 7 of the shades that are in this palette, and I think that they're good shades that give you some idea of what each one of the formulas is going to function like. Like you have the lusters here, you have the Duochromes here. So I'm going to swatch this shimmer here. This is one that, this one here is a shimmer as well, but this is one that we haven't seen. And this one was also a favorite to go into brow bone, inner corner. And this is what that one looks like. You guys, it's just so pretty. All right, so that's 8 of the shades, 4 of the 6 formulas. So I didn't do matte or metallic, but I think that this gives you some idea of what this palette performs like. And I really would suggest it. I mean, if it's not a palette that you've ever looked sideways at, you should look sideways at it. It's got some really beautiful, beautiful colors in it, and it is actually quite versatile for an all shimmer, or mostly shimmer, almost all color palette. If you can get past that, this is a beautiful palette to have. If you can also get past this, it's a beautiful palette to have. I hate touching this, but I love what it looks like.
Also, my dog is licking, so if you guys hear that, that is not me. I promise you.
Alright, so now we're going to pull a new palette. For those of you who do not know, I use an app that I found in my Play Store. I do have a Samsung Note 9, so I use an Android system. So the app that I use is called the Decide Now app, and this is what it looks like. I put all of my palettes into this, and as we utilize them through Palette Roulette, or I decluttered them, I did pull them out of this wheel, and as we get new palettes in, and I've hauled them with you, I do put them in. To pick a new palette, we just push the button right there in the middle, the big blue button, and it rolls through and picks a new palette for us. So that's what we're going to do right now. And we got the Viseart Dark Mattes. So isn't it funny how we went from a almost all shimmer palette to an almost all, well, definitely all matte palette. I was just talking about this palette in a video that you will see, I believe, tomorrow. So let me go pull this palette. I will be right back. Alright guys, this is the Viseart Dark Mattes palette. This is the palette that we will be utilizing for this week, and this is what it looks like. It's sad to me that this is the week of New Year's, but I have an all matte palette. But that's okay, because I can make anything be amazing. So I will probably utilize some of my Sydney Gray's singles in her shimmer or metallic formula, or maybe even some pigments. colorless pigments. And that is how we are going to get through this week. I'm really excited to use this palette. I haven't used it in forever. So that will be the palette that we're using throughout this next week. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that if you did, you're considering giving it a big thumbs up. Really does help our channels out here, lets YouTube know that there are people watching our videos, and maybe gives them some indication that they should push it out to other people. It'll help my channel grow for sure. I also hope that you liked it, or me, enough that you're considering subscribing before you go. I would love to grow my happy little YouTube family here and welcome you into my crazy midlife crisis, but something that I love doing. And if you do that, please don't forget to hit the notification bell. I do upload content 3 to 4 times a week, and I would hate for you to subscribe and then never see me in your feed. So please do hit the subscription bell. Please do hit the notification bell. Please give me a thumbs up. You guys, I hope that your December is amazing. We're almost done with it. We're almost into 2021, and I cannot for one wait for that to happen. I don't know what miracle I think is going to happen as soon as January 1 pops around, but I can't wait for a new year. What do you guys got planned? I hope it's a party at your house on the couch. That's where my party is. Thank you guys so much for coming. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you are going to have a safe holiday coming up. Please stay tuned for the next few days. I do still have Vlogmas content going out because my Vlogmas doesn't stop until the 31st, whereas many other creators stop on the 25th. I still have a video coming at you for the next 3 days, and the next 3 days are all collaborations. So I'm super excited about what you're going to get to see over the next several days. I hope that you guys are doing well out there, that your family is well, that you are well, that everybody is, you know, keeping safe and away from the sickness that is out there. I hope that you guys are wearing your masks to help you keep safe from the sickness that is out there. And if for no other reason but to protect yourself from what's going on in this world right now, I hope that you guys are loving each other, but loving each other from afar. And until next time, bye everyone.
What are you eating? Why you gotta lick? Why you gotta lick all the time? All you ever do is lick. Drives me nuts, Percy.